it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Companion. Even though I didn't include Companion on my most anticipated list for 2025, mostly because of the fact it comes out in January, so I didn't have to really wait that long, I was really intrigued by this film. From the premise alone had me hooked, and the fact that this is also from some of the people that brought us Barbarian. And Barbarian back in 2022 was one of the biggest surprises for me as a big fan of horror. And speaking of Barbarian, also, still, in 2025, we still do not have a physical media Blu-ray release for Barbarian, and I am still, to this day, begging, give me a Blu-ray copy of Barbarian. A billionaire's death sets off a chain of events for Iris and her friends during a weekend trip to his lakeside estate. That incredibly vague plot synopsis only kind of scratches the surface on how wild of a ride Companion is. Sadly, if you have seen the most recent trailer for the film, you probably have seen some of the stuff given away, as far as a handful of different plot details. So much like Barbarian, I would recommend going in as blind as possible, but, you know, everybody has different tolerance levels for that, so of course that's why we're talking about the movie here today. Thankfully, the film's twist within the first act or so, and Iris being a robot, isn't the only surprise Companion brings to the table. There's actually quite a lot of wild events throughout this movie that makes this just an overall bonkers experience. Honestly, the best way I could describe Companion is it's just a lot of fun. The navigation of the twists and turns in the story for Josh and Iris and the situation even had me shocked how they attempt to tackle this odd style of dark love story. What's so fascinating here is I don't know how I would necessarily describe Companion. I don't know if I would put it in one genre. It blends together a handful of genres but balances the tone of them all exceptionally. You've got your twisted romance, there's a lot of different horror thriller elements thrown into the mix, with certain parts of the film getting pretty bloody at times. I'd also say Companion has a sort of dark, twisted comedic edge to it, and how it presents the all-around story. At times, the film is just completely hilarious due to the chaos caused by Iris without giving too much away. In some of the marketing already for the film, we've seen these kind of comparisons, how the film is like if The Notebook meets Barbarian, and more or less I would say that's fairly true to say. All I'll say about it is it's certainly not a love story that I envy whatsoever. And speaking of these characters, a large reason why this movie works so well is because I think the cast is perfect. I am a little bit biased because the majority of this cast is filled with people I've enjoyed in previous projects, but still I love this cast. It's a very early contender for one of my favorite casts of the year. Harvey Guillén is incredibly hilarious, same with Lukas Gage. The best out of them all, and the major reason I would recommend checking out Companion, is both Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Both of them are terrific in very different ways, and how their characters bring different ingredients to the table. This sort of odd, questionable love story dynamic between these two is enthralling as it takes some turns for the worst. Sophie Thatcher especially, I think, had my favorite performance out of the bunch. She's able to bring a lot of different nuances to her performance as Iris that really linger with you afterwards. Over these last few years in particular, whether that be Yellow Jackets or Heretic and stuff like that, it's nice to see Sophie Thatcher continue to carve a place for herself in the horror genre. Plus, I gotta say, for this being the directorial debut for director Drew Hancock, I found it to be very impressive. From a shot composition standpoint, it's a gorgeous film to look at. The visuals are striking and effectively build atmosphere and tension when certain sequences call for it. Most of the time with the best horror and thrillers, there's usually something interesting to say, theme-wise, and what it chooses to explore, and Companion in a cheeky sort of way tackles some heavier subject matter through, I guess, a fairly semi-relatable lens. The story very much so at its core feels like an allegory on controlling toxic relationships and modern dating in of itself. Plus, you know, there's the obvious angles of dangers of technology and the dangers of replacing real people when it comes to intimacy, which it seems like as the years go on, it seems like that's becoming more of a reality. All I know is if the situation in Companion ends up becoming a reality in a couple years, I will definitely be frightened. Surprisingly as well, Companion accomplishes quite a lot in a fairly short runtime. I almost wish it was longer solely because I was having so much fun. The movie is only about 97 minutes long, so it feels like the perfect amount of runtime for me without overstaying its welcome. Overall, Companion definitely brings an out there, unforgettable, thrilling experience with its story. The dark, twisted, yet hilarious tone works so well in keeping you on your toes, never sure where the story will go next, but regardless, you're having a pretty awesome time while you're watching it. Like I said before, try your best to go into Companion not knowing too much about the story. That's kind of why I tried my best to be as vague as possible, so apologies if I was a little bit too vague for your liking. I'd love to know your thoughts down below once you get a chance to check out Companion when it hits theaters not too long from now. And once you do, share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of Companion? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? Thank you guys, as always, for checking out videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Till next time, I'll see you guys later.